Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Bree Noble, and I am here with Tara B. And I'm so excited that we are going to be talking about important aspects of an engaging performance. And let me give you a clue. It's not just the music you're performing. There's so much more about an engaging performance. And what I love is that Tara's podcast is called The Engaging Performer. So this is perfect for her show. But, on our show too, like you can't have a successful musician business if you can't engage people in performance. I'm a big person over all of these years, whether it was like, oh, I could make money only online, or now it's like AI is so big. Like to me, the idea of being in front of people and having that connection one to one or one to many, but also that one to one experience that you have with them is so much more important and will grow your career so much faster than anything that you can do through online and AI. So
Oh,
I'm so excited about this. So Tara, I want you to like
yes.
kind of give your tea on this as well.
Yeah, well, and amen to all that. And I want to invite you listeners in because we're just when Bree and I kind of decided even to do this, it's we thought let's have conversations just about the stuff. We've both been professionals in the business for so long and have a lot of experiences from two different parts of the country and everything. So it's really great and it's such a great topic, I think, Bree. I mean, I was just at a couple of live shows of other friends and it's really fun to again think about those aspects of what does it take to actually connect with your audience?
Yep. Yep. And I think, there's a few things we want to hit on. Obviously, the music choice is important.
Hmm.
But also there's just so many other things going on. There's the thing, what's happening between the songs. It's
Yes.
about the way that you structure your program with this, the way the songs happen, you know,
Hmm.
and just kind of having this like arc, right, throughout your
Yeah.
show. And then also we want to talk about just like your interaction with the audience and how it's
Oh.
so important to be mindful about that as well. Like they're not watching you on a TV screen. It's different.
Right. I know that, and that is the beauty of live audience,
Yes.
but it also means you have to be mindful of how are you engaging them? How are you connecting with them just as people?
Yep.
So, in fact, I want to just bring up something to you. I saw, because it's so fresh in my head from the other night when I went to a show. It was a show on kind of the 70s songs, a friend of mine and her husband that we're doing a tribute to. But in the middle of the show, what I loved is they had an audience sing along, and it was to old TV theme songs from the 70s and
So
then
like Laverne and
commercials.
Shirley and like
Yes.
Happy
Yes.
Days. Yes.
Yeah, and that was so great. Like I felt I just wanted to sing along anyway. Well, not just because I'm a singer, but I just wanted to. And so them giving us the opportunity, they even had like the spotlights on the audience so
Mm,
that people could feel like they were a part of it. And I thought, what a great ad to engage people.
that's super fun. I love that. So let's start by talking about, the obvious piece of
Hmm.
conversation, which is like set list, like, what percentage of cover songs versus regular, your own original music, and
Yeah.
how do we structure that? Because I love that idea of how it's in the middle, right? Where you're maybe getting a
Right.
little bit of fatigue, like you might be losing a
Mhm.
little, let's bring them back in.
Yes. Well, and what do you think about? I know what I think about cover songs in general, but I'm curious to hear your take on that too.
Oh, I think they're awesome. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, you don't want to have more than half of your set be cover songs if you're trying to promote yourself as an original artist. But
Right.
having those, again, like I said, it brings people back. Even if you're not doing a sing along, it brings them back to like, oh my gosh, like I remember this song, like they're connected with
Yes.
it in some way. But also, if you can do your own spin on it. One of the coolest things that I
Hmm.
ever did with Women of Substance is we had a show called You've Got It Covered. And we did
Oh,
this when it was a radio show, so it was much harder to do as a podcast because of like licensing and stuff.
right.
But what we did is I'm taking cover versions of all these songs that people know, and then I'd have like the 70s show, the 80s show,
Hmm.
and it was so fun because people would do their like totally random, like completely different genre bending
Yeah.
style on a song. So it'd be
Yeah.
like, I remember one in particular that I love is the Rachel Sage did her version of Fame, the song Fame, but
Yeah.
she did it in like a piano ballad. And I was like,
Oh,
that is so
wow.
different, and I love it.
Oh, cool.
But it made you really focus on like the lyrics because it wasn't so
Yeah.
like fame, I'm gonna live. It was very like
Right.
think about what these lyrics are saying about fame.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. And yes, when somebody puts their spin on it, you're still giving them though something of that they can connect with because they know it. Like I always think, I remember hearing this from oh now I can't think of the guy in Nashville, but he was talking about when you do a concert, you got to think of like you're dating people almost, like the
Was it
first
Tom
date.
Jackson?
Yes, that
Yeah.
was it. And I was thinking like it is true. If you find something of commonality, you're much more willing to listen to something that you don't know if you've already established like oh hey I love that piece or I know that piece and then even if the next one isn't it's like well maybe there'll be another one and so it's finding that connection point.
Yep. And if you love the way they interpret a cover song that you already liked, then they are gonna, they're gonna be more interested
Yeah,
into your originals.
so true.
So, like,
So
what do you do when you program your show? How many covers do you put? I mean, I know it depends. Like, if you're at a like a senior living center, you're gonna do mostly covers, right? Because
mostly
that's what they
covers,
want. But like, if
right.
you're doing, let's just say, it's a Tara B like concert.
Hmm.
It's like a live stream or something. Like, what? How do you decide how many covers and how do you sprinkle them in?
Well, I always start with covers. That's
Okay.
one thing that's important to me because I do feel like I want that connection point right up front.
Hmm.
And then, for me, because I'm not a prolific songwriter, and for me, I'm not quite as about that compared to a lot of singer-songwriters. I'd say maybe like a third of what I do. Even when I was singing with, I had a girls duo called the Busy Girls, and we did write our own songs. And there, I would say it was about a third to a half.
Okay.
So, we kind of like, I'd say maybe, two songs that people know, then a song they don't, then two songs and so how about you? Because I know you've also been more of a singer-songwriter, I
Well, I
think, and
think
you
it
work
it
with a lot.
depends on the program. Like when I was doing my singing and speaking program, my keynote
Hmm.
concert, I still started with doing Somewhere from West Side Story. Even though
Oh,
it honestly had
great
nothing to do
song.
with the program, but it drew them in like and I knew that I sang it well and I would impress
Yeah.
them and that would like really everybody knows it, even all the
Yes.
generations, right? Because there's been like the newest movie of West Side Story. So people know
Right.
it and they're just like, they're in it, right? And then I can start
Yes.
telling my stories and they care because they're like, oh, this person like actually is worth listening to.
Yeah.
With my original show, I mean, I didn't do like a ton of just concerts actually, because I was always
Hmm.
a lot of times doing, stories and concerts and stuff. So I
Sure.
did probably mostly always start with a cover.
Hmm. But when you say that brings me to then like, and this is a little part of the banter, but obviously if you do have a song you've written, how important like do you think stories are?
Oh my gosh, essential. Like, why are they going to care? And I've had some pushback on this. I've talked about this on social media sometimes,
Hmm.
and other people are like writing back going, I prefer to tell the story through my song. And I'm
Ugh,
like, I get that. But like,
but
they need to like perk their ears up and listen to
yes.
the details. Otherwise, so if you like set the stage for it,
Yes.
like I always talk about my song that I wrote in the hospital. And like once I tell them the story about why I wrote it and where I
Mhm.
was, and I set the stage with like, visuals and sounds and, I fainted in the shower and all the things, right? They're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this song, like I'm now I really want to hear it because I can imagine what it was like to like write this song. And then they're actually going to pay attention and listen.
Absolutely. And I also think it gives them a chance then because not everybody catches every lyric either,
No
because that
way.
can even depend on the way we enunciate, or it can depend on the sound.
Yep.
So I
Oh
think
yeah.
if you don't give a story, it's actually harder. And so even if it's a really tender moment or whatever, if you can't, the audience can't understand the lyrics, it's like, well, they don't have anything to go with. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really important to set the stage, even if it's short, like super short.
Well, and especially if we are writing in a nuanced way. There are some songs
Yeah.
that could be interpreted as as a spiritual song versus
Hmm.
like a love song, so you
Right.
might want to set what that is. Or like for example, my song about my grandmother with Alzheimer's. If
Hmm.
I didn't set that up front, they might not know what I was talking about because it's
Right.
like, it's all about, she's going to the doctor and she doesn't know where she all of a sudden doesn't know where she is. And then she's like, where's my suitcase? I want to go home. And, that
Hmm.
people might not be like, what the heck? Is this like a runaway? Like, I don't know what she's talking about.
I know. I know. I think it's so important. So, okay, so here's a question for you, and I know we can both talk on this, but what do you think buzz or tempos of the song or the song keys? Like, what do you think should happen with that? Or how
I
do you do it?
Well, I don't know. I think
Probably varies.
yeah, it varies depending on the show. Also, again, because I was talking a lot in between, it doesn't matter
Mm,
as much. But when
that's
you're doing
true.
song after song after song, it is important to vary the keys because otherwise it really starts to feel one note. If
Yeah.
if it's like, okay, I'm doing a song in the key of C, and now I'm doing another song in the key of C, and then
Hmm.
I'm always thankful at church because I do a lot of songs, especially if you're playing it with a guitarist, you have
Yes.
to play in the
Oh,
key of D and G all the time, and it's like
it's
sometimes
like,
C, and it's like I'm glad there's some talking in between these songs because 3 out of 5 of these songs are in the key of D, and they're all in a row. It might sound really boring.
well, and I agree. And I think that with yeah, with the even the tempos too. I know all of us probably love and hold on to our ballads.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie. It's like I still love singing a good ballad because it can kind of let your voice shine. But you do too many ballads in a row and you start losing your audience,
Yep.
I think.
Yep, doesn't matter how engaging the lyrics are and how
Right.
beautiful you're singing it. Yeah, it will kind of like lull them into La La Land, and you don't want that. So yeah, it's good to vary them. Like I definitely think up tempo at the beginning, up tempo at the end. I love this
Yes.
in the middle idea.
Yep.
And then just kind of like, there's mid-tempo songs and then
Right.
there's those spotlight songs where it's like you and the piano,
Yeah.
the
Right.
guitar, and like those are special. And I do think those should accompany a story should accompany it a lot of times too, just because it gets them into the edge of the seat mode.
Right. Exactly. Um, yeah.
Well, so what do
So
you oh, I was gonna say, like, what do you think about as far as like, I don't know, like themes, like, or like a arc of your concert? Do you kind of try to keep them like, do you vary your themes, or do you do have like different programs where they're like all on the same theme, and do you kind of try to take them on a journey through the whole show?
depending, like where the tribute show I'm in,
That's
of
an
course
easy
I do.
one.
I mean, I do that with the whole band.
Right.
But because it's to specific artists, but in general, I one thing I do, I don't always have theme shows unless I've been asked to, but I do vary with like time of the year, even like if it's spring or like for instance, I just did a gig yesterday and I threw in kind of in the middle of it, I wanted to highlight mothers for
Mm.
Mother's Day. And so that was something important. And sometimes you can do that even by, blocking off part of that concert for something specific. Or if it isn't a theme, yeah, I mean, you could take them through a story too, because I know that happens with, like, I remember doing it was like Great American Songbook. And so I was kind of taking people through like the decades
Mm.
of
That's
that.
cool. I like that.
Yeah. So, and what I think is so cool about the way we program something too is we have the option to create, like you say, themes or, taking, like, what are some that you've done?
Yeah, and I think we were talking earlier about how we want to do a whole separate episode on this because there's a lot
That's
to be
true.
said around it. But like,
Yeah.
I was thinking about it because of Mother's Day. I know we're probably releasing this in
Yeah.
June, but we're talking in May, right
Right.
before Mother's Day.
Right.
And I had like, because my mom was a part of my speaking program, I could really highlight that and
Mm-hmm.
then market it as a Mother's Day thing.
Yeah.
Um, and but like I had a patriotic one because I was known for singing the national anthem at Dodger Stadium. So
Right.
cooked up a bunch of patriotic ones. And it's funny, like the gigs that you get when you have those. You have
I
that, and then
know.
people are like, "Oh, can you sing the national anthem at this National Guard like event, or can you come
Right.
sing the Navy
It's
hymn
true.
at this person's funeral?"
Right. I know.
So like I became known as like this patriotic singer, and I really that wasn't my thing, but like it got me gigs.
Oh, me
And
too.
that's so funny, right? And then
Yeah.
I always have like a Valentine's one where, I do
Hmm.
like all the classic love songs from like then and now, or like musicals and pop or whatever. And then also I had a Christmas one because I had a Christmas album. So then I was just using like a lot of Bible verses in between and stringing them
Hmm.
together, kind of in the chronology of the Christmas story.
Yeah. Well, and that is part, when you think of that, yeah, what are you going to, if you have different themes, what are you going to put in as keeping that together?
Right.
So here's a question that I think of a lot is with the stage banter. Because I know what I prefer, like if I'm in the audience, but I've also kind of seen what my audiences respond to. What do you think, besides just telling a story? What do you think about the thing of like asking the audience questions at times?
I like it. It's really hard for me because I'm visually impaired. I can't see them. So I
Gotcha.
never did that. But I like it as the audience. I mean, you can have people yell out stuff if you want and stuff. I just
Right.
think the more audience interaction, the
Yeah.
better.
Yep.
But I didn't, because mine was a lot of talking, I didn't have a ton of,
Right.
I actually did interaction at the end because I did a lot of events where people were at tables because it was like luncheons and stuff.
Oh,
So I could have
right.
like I had like little questions that they could talk amongst themselves based upon
Which
my
is also
response.
great.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I thought of that too, Bree. I did a Sound of Music program, and I've done a few of them, but one where they were sitting at tables, and I did the same thing. I was like, okay, here we're going to take like 3 minutes, and I want you to tell each other like your favorite memory,
Love
you know.
that.
And yeah, and they were so excited, like I couldn't almost get them to stop talking.
Uh-huh.
But it engaged them with each other too. So that's why I think even coming up with just tiny creative things, or if it is something that they could literally, yell out, that it's easy for someone to yell out.
Yep.
I know we have something in our tribute show where we are trying to help them find out which one of the Beatles was talking to the artist that we portrayed, which was Anne Murray. And
Uh,
so it's just fun to say, like, who do you think it was? And then you get people that will start. And again, it's just trying to include them. So we're not like lecturing them.
Yep.
So,
And I think another thing you can do around that is do giveaways and be
oh,
like,
yes.
we want to give this to the person that came from the farthest away to this show.
Yes.
Come from more than 100 miles. Stand up.
That's great. Yeah, I mean you can really include your audience a lot. I think if you take the time to just think of something maybe creative or something that's more natural. Like, you were saying like, well, if you can't see them, great, we'll do then something else. Like you said, get the tables or do a giveaway or
Yeah.
just anything or get them to even like tell their neighbor something in the
Right.
middle of a concert.
Right. What do you
So,
think about the visuals on the stage? Because this is something that I think a lot of artists don't think about. And it's hard if you're like me, you're a
yes.
solo artist that has a keyboard. How can you not just be planted in that one spot? Like, how can you give your audience something different to look at every once in a while?
I know. I'm not very good with that either if I'm solo. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously when I'm singing with a band or something, for one thing, there's just more people up there and if there's lighting,
But like if you're
um,
not tied to your keyboard too, you can move around. If you're singing, you're just singing and not playing. I think that's so much harder with keyboard players than guitarists. Guitarists
oh,
can move.
and we can't.
Yeah.
The one thing too, I was thinking about this because just yesterday I was playing at a grand piano and those, you're kind
And you're like sideways.
of look a little sideways, like you're
Yes.
having to turn your head. Um, it just that drives me nuts actually, but but what I've learned is too, as a pianist, and I'm sure you're this way too, it's like, well, then I have to, first of all, I want to make sure I'm really enunciating so they can kind of get my lyrics. But also I try to do as much with my eyes, to be as expressive with my eyes. And even just look up. I mean, that's something that and I don't want to down people for this at all because I understand, playing any instrument and singing, you're doing two things at once. But I always think if you are accompanying yourself, if you can, try to learn that instrument or have simple enough accompaniments that you really are not tied to looking at your instrument. Would you
Absolutely.
say
That
that
was my
too?
biggest challenge when I first started is like I need to learn to not look at my instrument. And
Yeah.
I had a huge struggle with playing and singing at the same time. I was convinced I couldn't do it. But I gave myself the
Oh,
challenge. I was able to do it after a month,
yes.
but like that's
Yeah.
so important because you can't
Mm-hmm.
look down.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun now because now I can play like when we have like Good Friday and stuff and the lights go
Yeah.
down and it's dark, and I have to play
And you
the
can
last song
play.
in the dark and I can do it.
Right. I know. And again, and I want to encourage people, it's not that you have to have your accompaniment so amazing. Like if it means that you have a little bit not so complicated an accompaniment, but so that you can engage with you can look at the audience, I think that's okay to do.
Yep. And I know that a lot of people are worried about using tracks and don't want to, and I
Hmm.
get that, but I did always use one track in my show just
I
so
think
I
it's
could stand in front of them and
I
communicate.
think it's fine.
Mhm.
Because again, yeah, and I don't think people are as quite as picky as we are as musicians. That's the other
Mhm.
thing I found. They're taking in something live, so whatever we're giving them, they're going to kind of take in. I mean, yes, you might have some critics, but I don't think people are going to be so critiquing,
I don't,
as we think.
yeah, we're so judgmental of
Yes.
because we're musicians.
Right.
Also, you can, if you wanted a bigger sound, you can play along with a track too, which I've done. You play a
Oh yeah,
track and
yeah.
you're still playing your live instrument.
Right. But it
But I
gives that
mostly do it so I can actually, look in front of them eye to eye, especially if you're
right.
stuck on the side with the grand piano, like you're saying, because it's happened to me many times.
I
Because
know.
it's like when you're on tour, you don't want to take your keyboard if you don't have to, and they have a grand piano.
Exactly.
I love playing grand pianos, so why
Me
should?
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
I
like that every week at church. I'm on the side with the grand piano that I
yeah.
love, but I can't look at them. I'm literally on the side, like
Right.
almost like not to their backs, but kind of.
Right. I know what you mean.
So I just have to know that I'm really enunciating with vocals and stuff.
Right. Well, and one thing kind of along with that is, I mean, we're already saying look at people, but the thing I've even noticed it on shows like American Idol and others where people sing like they aren't playing an instrument, they're just singing, and they're so into their song or something that they're always closing their eyes. And so, what do you think about that?
Yeah. I think that you have to be, I love that they're getting into the song, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be mindful of that. You have to, and I've certainly gone there, I've gotten
Yeah.
into it and then realized, oh my gosh, my eyes are closed. I can't see anyone. I need to like get back in
Right.
the game. But I
Right.
mean, that's a good sign that you're really getting into the music and you're probably doing a really great performance, but they're not
Yes.
going to like it as much as they would if they could see you. It's like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how amazing you sound if you're not connecting with them, they're not
Hmm.
going to realize how great it is.
Right. And maybe it's not in the whole song even. Maybe there is a part where you pull in. But yeah, I think at least something because that is something I've seen more consistently in the last probably 10, 15 years. I feel like than I even used to.
Hmm.
And so I just want to encourage people just to remember like your audience is there and we really are serving them. I know it feels like it's about us,
Yeah,
but
no, it's not about us.
no.
It's about them. They have paid to come to see you. They are I mean, this whole conversation is about we are entertainers, not just
Right.
musicians, right? We're giving them
Right.
a full experience, not here and come and listen to my songs, because
Right.
honestly, they could just turn on Spotify and listen to your album if they just
Right.
wanted to listen to your songs. They want an experience.
Well, and I think because I thought about this the other night again when I was in the audience, and I really loved the show that I went to, and of one of my friends, and I felt this is kind of what I thought at the end. I felt not just rejuvenated, but I felt valued and
Mhm.
like I mattered. I think because they included us and we could feel that. And if your audience leaves that way, it's going to boost them up.
Yep, for sure. For sure. And I mean, I just want to say like one thing you can do to be a better performer is go to other performances.
Yes.
And be very discerning. Okay, this really went well for them. Like
Hmm.
this really affected me well. This did not. I remember
Right.
several years ago I did a thing about a concert that I went to and I'm like, here are all the problems with this concert. It was a big it was somebody
Sure.
that I really loved from childhood and they
Yeah.
were really older and they were just like riding the coattails of their long career
Mm.
and just not they were phoning it in, and I'm
Yeah.
like, here are all the
Yeah.
things you don't want to do
Right.
as a performer, especially if you're trying to gain an audience.
Right. I agree. And that's great advice. So, yeah.
So I think that we should, since we've talked about so much great stuff,
Yep.
I think we should end this
Yep.
with how do
I
we
do
end
too.
our show? How do we end it? Because sometimes it's always like, all right, see you later. Bye. You know what I mean? It's like you have to have an ending that's clearly an ending that's exciting and that like invites them also to meet you afterward.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
what do you do to end your shows?
well, when it's solo, honestly, sometimes I'll even just give them like the heads up of, hey, I've got one more song for you. And
Mhm.
this has been such a great time. I want to thank you so much, for coming. And you can talk with me afterwards or whatever. I know in the tribute show I'm in, I can't remember, do we tell them? No, we don't tell them, but it's a big upbeat
Right.
song and we kind of get them on their feet and clapping. And so how about you?
I always say like before I do my last song or something like that, I always mention the merch table. Like I try to
Smart.
weave that in throughout, like when I say like, oh, this is from my album Healing Waters, that's back at the merch table. I just like throw
Yeah.
little things in there, but at the end I'll
Right.
be like, I would love to come meet you at the
Mm,
merch table
yes.
afterward. I'll be standing in the back or whatever. So
Yeah.
I invite them for
Right.
sure and just kind of give them the clue that this is the last song. And as I said, like a lot of times in my solo shows, I would do the last song as the track song where I stood in front of them. So I was making that
Oh, so
last
good.
chance to like connect with them before they
Yeah.
can come in the back and connect with me.
Yep. Yeah. And it can, I think, and whether it is like, I know I was saying upbeat a lot of times, and I will do that, but once in a while with my solo things, I might do something that's not upbeat, but really like a somewhere, like you were saying, how you start, where it's still very powerful, and it's just going to let it sit in the air for a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, that can work too, depending on your audience. What
Yeah.
do you think about encores? Like as solo artists,
Oh,
it's kind of a weird thing. Every once in a while, I've had people being like, encore, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know what to do,
Me too. You know what? And in cases where I've had that happen, because I don't have it happen very much as a solo artist, but once in a blue moon, I usually will end with Edelweiss because I know it by heart. And I'm like, oh, you want one more? Okay. And then I'll have them sing along. So,
No,
you
that's
know,
good. I've even done like, well, if it's a church thing, sometimes I'll have them sing. Like I'll be like, let's do the doxology or something.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Anything that can kind of connect quickly and make them feel again a part of it.
But I think it's good to have something in your back pocket because if that
Yes,
does happen, then
I
you're
know.
not just like totally. One thing I know, we went to a Pentatonics concert and they did for their encore, which I think is good because you're so upbeat on the last song, right? But then the
Right.
encore is like, okay, this is actually the ending, so let's kind of bring them back down. And they went like off mic. I think they like stood around like a single mic and they did like
Oh.
an a cappella. I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't like Parting Glass, but it was something like that where it was very, just this traditional folk type of a song, not
Mm-hmm.
anything like what they normally do. But
Mm-hmm.
people that are real fans will love it because they love a
Right.
cappella music. So I
Right.
think something that is very like encapsulates you. Like for me, a lot of times I would do Sarah McLachlan's Angel.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it became like because I'm a piano singer-songwriter, that really encapsulates who I am and the type of music I love and stuff. And so doing something like that, also it was a cover, so they
Mm-hmm.
knew it. So it wasn't like I was losing them, but it was also a little bit down. And it was, calming them down and being like,
Mhm.
okay, this is actually the ending.
I agree. And even when you said cover, that makes me think, yes, when I've actually planned something just in case, it usually is a cover just because I think I want to leave them again with something that they can already go, yep. Like for those who don't want to stay extra for the extra song,
Yep,
like
that's
at
true.
least it's going to
And
be
they're like,
something they
okay, I
know.
can, I can like sneak out the back or whatever. Yeah, that's true.
Right.
But we don't want them to do that because we
No.
want them to come to the merch table.
Yes. That's good.
Well,
This
this
has
has
been
been
awesome.
super, super awesome. I know we,
Yeah.
we try to keep these to like, 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Of course, well, I think we definitely want to do that episode later on like how to program like themed
Yes.
shows and how to market those, which
How
was a
to
big
market. Yep.
as well. But any last things you want to say about being an engaging performer on stage?
I think just keep in mind again that, well, two things. One, that you're serving the audience. You know, if you can just kind of think of that. And then number two is that even if you are more introverted and so maybe you feel like you're not engaging, which by the way, either way, extrovert, introvert, we're all people, so we can connect with others. Maybe just think of it like you're talking to a person. Like how would you talk to a person that you were getting to know? Because that can take some of the fear out of it too of whatever you're going to share. Or if you were sharing a story, if we're talking here sharing stories today, we know that there's going to be other people listening, but really right now it's just us talking.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I also, if you could, even if like you're doing a bigger show, having some kind of a test audience that's like, so if you could do a house concert or even just like
Hmm.
a real performance in your living room for your family. I talked recently because it
Yeah.
was Mother's Day about how I used to perform my songs in front of my kids, like pretend it was a real performance and tell them to
Oh,
be like brutally honest, and they would. They'd be
yeah.
like, "Yeah, this song's kind of boring," or you weren't looking at us and stuff like that. Because
That's
you
funny.
also, if you're brave enough, you can video yourself and look at that
Right.
and be
Right.
honest. I know many of my students are like, "I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I finally did," and I'm
Right.
like. I learned so much. Like for some reason, I'm always looking over to the right or I'm only
Yeah.
looking down and stuff like that.
Well, and sorry, I just thought of one other thing, but
Yeah.
not again that you want to do this, but through the years, it started when I was a teenager, I was the typical take my hairbrush and sing in front of the mirror. But I'm telling you, in those days, because I looked at and could see what visually I was doing, I have to admit that nowadays, when I'm done with performances, especially when I can sing without the piano, but even with, I get people actually saying something about that part of what I was communicating.
Hmm.
So I know that I've learned something through doing that.
Yeah, that's good. So yeah,
Just to
mirror
see.
or video yourself.
Yes, video now. So
Sometimes it's just like a little bit humbling because you
yes,
realize
it is.
and you realize you have these certain, audio like ticks that you when you're talking
Right.
that you say, and it's good because then you're like, okay, I need to make sure I don't do that every single, every
Right.
minute I say or mine is that's my thing and I know it's my thing.
And mine is
But just
yup.
even yep.
So
Be
Minnesotan.
aware. And don't beat yourself up, just like be
Right.
aware because everybody
Yeah,
has verbal tics.
absolutely. And visual ones too.
Mhm.
So, and I don't think
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
like I probably am like going like this with my hair or something. You know what I mean? When I'm talking, I might go like that or it's
but we're
good to know those
human.
things. Yeah.
And that will actually make us more authentic too with our audiences. We're not perfect people.
We
They're
don't
not
need to
they
crush our tics. We just need to make sure
no.
they don't take over.
Right. Right. There, that's a good way.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my
Good
gosh,
advice from Bree.
this has been so awesome. I love these talks. I can't
Me
wait for
too.
the next one. And by the way, if any of you guys have any ideas on anything that we should talk about
Yeah.
on any subjects, please connect with us. I am at Profitable Musician LLC on Instagram and Threads. Those are the best places really to connect with me. What about you, Tara?
At Tara Brueske Music, both on Instagram and Facebook.
And of course, we both have these podcasts and lots of
Yes.
back catalogs. So if you're enjoying this, go binge our back catalogs and we'll be making
Yes.
episodes going forward.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Thanks, Bree.
guys.